Broadcasting the boisterous part of the fastest game in the world. So strap on your lids and lace them up, Rook. You're listening to the BarnChirpers Hockey Podcast. Take it up!
Clap it up, boys!
Clap it up, boys. Clap it up. Folkster, here we are. I mean, we got a stacked show. We were trying to keep it quick, but we got a stacked show. So why don't we just get into this, Justin? Why don't we get into this?
Let's do it. So let's start with, I hate to lead with the cup because it's almost over, but that's the big news, right? The cup is almost over.
It could be the cup is going to be in Vegas tomorrow night, Tuesday, because Vegas is up 3-1.
Woo!
But you know what? Never fear. The Cats have been down 3-1 before. I don't know if you know this, but they were down 3-1 to the best team in the history of the regular season, the Boston Bruins, and they came back and they won 3 straight.
That's true. That's true.
Not unbelievable. I mean, the stats are going to tell you that Vegas is a huge favorite. Huge favorite.
Yeah, massive.
And as they should be because, I mean, honestly, the Cats have really been playing like Vegas is their daddy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Jack Eichel has been their daddy. Aiden Hill has been their daddy. Jonathan Marchessault has been their daddy. Alex Pietrangelo has been their daddy. Nick Howden's been their daddy. Nicholas Roy has been their daddy. Kolasar has been their daddy. Everybody has been their daddy. Mark Stone has been their daddy. And they've kind of been playing like Vegas is their daddy. But don't count them out, Justin.
You can't.
Because technically, I mean, not technically, it was. They split at home, which, I mean, that's not too bad. Like, to split at home isn't too bad. It would have been better had they split in Vegas.
Yeah.
Now they're going back to Vegas, which we know is a really tough arena to play in, really tough barn, loud. The crowd is in a frenzy. So that's a tough barn to play in. So going back to Vegas down 3-1 is tough. But again, I'm going to call back to the Boston series. They split in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
They lost 2 at home, and then they won in Boston twice.
Yeah.
To get rid of Boston. So I am not counting out the Cats yet. I will never underestimate and count out Captain Bobrovsky ever again. We can't count out our boy Matthew Kuklutch.
Mm-hmm.
We can't count out the Monty, Brandon Montour. These guys are here to play, and they don't quit. You got to give it to them. They never give up. Hustle, loyalty, respect. You know what I'm saying? But
can't see them.
But real quick, I do want to say that even though, like, what I've noticed, and sorry, we'll call back to this. Last week we talked about how many penalties are being called and how, game 1 and 2, the Panthers, woof, a lot of penalty minutes. And I said last week too that they need to stop doing the after the whistle stuff because they're getting called for it. And they did do that. They changed their game. So they did make that improvement where, there hasn't been any penalties called 3 and 4 with after the whistle stuff. They've done just enough to kind of get in there, but not get those bad calls. So they did change their game that way. But also what I saw in game 3 and game 4, did you watch both games?
Unfortunately, I've watched 0 of the cup that I've been super excited about.
Okay, perfect. So game 3, as if you're watching the show, listening to the show, you probably already know that the Cats won game 3 and they lost game 4. Well, in game 3, they scored the first goal, which is great. Exactly what I said last week. Like, they got to score the first goal. They did. And they changed their game. They didn't get called on those after the whistle stuff. But they still ended up having to be in a comeback situation again. They've literally been in that situation this whole entire series. And while it doesn't, I shouldn't say it doesn't necessarily hurt them because they're down 3-1, that's kind of been their game, to play from behind, to be in a frenzy, right? To be a fast-paced, high-energy team. I just feel like you can only go to the well so many times, and I feel like I've said that on this show before as well. You can only go to the well so many times. You can only count on Matthew Kuklutch to score a game-tying or game-winning goal so many times. I mean, he keeps doing it, but you can only count on it so many times. So game 3, they score the first goal, but then all of a sudden they find themselves down. They do make a comeback. who gets the game-tying goal. Matty could clutch in the final few minutes of the game, and then they score in overtime. They are 7-0 in overtime, so if they can get to overtime, they have a pretty good chance of winning. But how many times can we make that happen? Like, we're kind of pressing our luck a lot when puck luck has not really been on the Cats' side. They can't seem to get very many things through Aiden Hill. Shots just aren't going through. They've got a couple lucky ones, but man. So I guess my whole point of this is Game 3. They made a change. They ended up winning that game, but they were still kind of playing. They were playing from behind. Game 4, again, not a terrible game. Vegas gets 3 goals, and it was about 12:50 left in the second period when Vegas scored their last goal, the third goal. So the Cats came from behind again, and they made it real interesting. But what I saw was, like, when they scored, I can see kind of two sides of this. They scored, and there wasn't really much elation, much excitement about scoring a goal in the Stanley Cup, right? I feel like the energy with scoring the goals has been really, really tiny. Like, it's been like, yeah, cool, we scored. All right, great. You just scored in the Stanley Cup. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
You know? And I can see one side of that, like, okay, we got one. Let's go to work. I can see the side of that, but it was really just so melancholy. And I can spot that being a melancholy emo kid. It was kind of like they got that first goal, so now they're down 3-1 in the second period. And it was like, yeah, cool. All right, cool. Great. Tap, tap, tap. All right. Like, where's the energy? They get that second goal, a little bit more like, okay. And then they really went to town to try to get that third goal in the final minutes of the third period. Again, Aiden Hill has just been playing 2 to 3 levels up, like I said last week. So it's been tough. But, yeah, I'm not counting the Cats out yet, though. I still believe in the Cats. But going back to Vegas is going to be tough. It's going to be real tough. I really honestly – I mean, Bob has been playing insane. Like, honestly, there was probably 4 or 5 high-quality chances in Game 4 that Vegas got shots on that Bob was knocking down, just making amazing saves to keep them in the game. So I'm not sure exactly what they got to do. I mean, other than pucks on nets, which is pretty basic, simple stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm a little worried, but
yeah,
I'm not counting them out.
I'm in the same boat. And again, you know, as fired up as I was about this cup, the fact that I haven't been able to find time to be able to watch any of this is really kind of frustrating. But, you know, that's part on the NHL. You know, sure, they've got it on TBS and TNT, but I don't have either of those things. So, you know, more on that in future episodes, I'm sure. But also the way things have gotten scheduled for me lately just hasn't made it happen. But I think, are we looking at here, like, so the difference between the 8-1 matchup, you know, we don't really do that in hockey in the first round anymore. The 8-1 matchup with Boston, where Allmark semi showed up, and they kind of got thrown off his game because they changed the way they did the goalies all season. Whereas they're facing Vegas in a new 1-8 matchup that Vegas is just, I mean, you hate to repeat ourselves, but they're just a fucking wagon. They're a wagon. And they're hot right now. So it's, you know, they're in the middle of being hot, as opposed to, you know, Boston just kind of assumed they were going to get through. Do you think that's kind of what we're seeing here? Because I guess, to boil the question down to the simplest form, is Aiden Hill the difference, you think?
I mean, like I said, he's definitely been a huge factor, considering, as I've said now, he's playing. He's again, repeating myself from last week. He's a decent goaltender already. He's Daniel Bryan in 2014. He's a solid B+, right? But right now he's playing 2 to 3 levels up because it's the Stanley Cup, right? And he's, like you said, they're hot right now. They got super hot at the perfect time. I think, to answer your question, is I feel like the Cats have forgotten that they weren't supposed to be there. And I feel like they've lost some of that fire that they had against Boston. Like, whatever, let's freaking go, you know? I've been trying to watch my swears, ladies and gentlemen, and I almost lost it there.
I did it too, so.
We're trying to make this a more family-friendly show to appeal to more audiences and whatnot. Hey, real quick, also, PG, also, if you want to like, subscribe, comment on Apple iTunes, on Spotify, everywhere you're hearing this, on YouTube, like us, follow us, subscribe, tell your friends about it, tell your family about it, tell your dog about it, tell everybody about it, tell the NHL about it so we can chirp everybody. Then we can get more ears on us. But again, I'm trying to watch my swears. So going back to it, I think that they have lost some of that fire of LFG. We're in the Stanley Cup and we're not even supposed to be here. I think they've lost some of that somewhere because they obviously had that in Boston and they took them down. And then, boom, now we're going up against another great team, Toronto. They've got a lot of momentum. Well, we're not supposed to be here anyway. Look, boom, knocked them out.
4-1.
Now, well, I mean, Carolina, what are we going to do? Hey, we made it this far. Destroyed them. They took out the 3 best teams in the East, right? And then I think somewhere in that break, maybe they lost that a little bit. They forgot because it's like, hey, we made it to the Stanley Cup. We're actually pretty good. We're on a streak. We just swept one of the best teams or the best team in the Metro, you know? So, you know, essentially we beat 1, 2, and 3 in the East.
Yeah.
Essentially. So I feel like that's part of it as well. Aiden Hill has been a factor, but I feel like, again, when I talked earlier about 6 minutes ago about kind of just losing something, right? I feel like it's that where they forgot that they weren't supposed to be there. So I'm really hoping they find that on this travel day, or I guess travel day was yesterday, on this off day to bring that to Vegas because, you know, technically it's still a series. Like the old adage is the series doesn't start until the home team loses. Well, the home team lost in Game 4.
Yep.
And it would be I mean, it's still interesting, but I guess if it was the case where, again, they split in Vegas or whatever the case, but it's 3-1. So it is interesting, but it could be over too. Like,
it could be over.
Your butts are on the line, guys. Like, let's go. I mean,
let's see that fire. Let's see what got you here. Let's see you do it. Like, I mean, I have 2 viewpoints here, and you know, you hate to do that. Number one, part of me wants to see Vegas just go dismantle them in Game 5 and just to show exactly what we said on our predictions, that they're just a better team than we gave them credit for. And they just showed up and just punched people's lights out and just they walked through this playoffs.
Yeah, they really did. They really did.
What I think would be best for hockey is the Panthers show up and somehow get this thing in my heart of hearts to 7, and then we really see who the better team is. Because if they can somehow get it to 7, I'm okay with however it goes once you get there.
Game 7s are toss up. So
toss up. Now before we move on, because again, big news week. You got a couple stats here.
And this was really when I was looking at this on my flight back from Florida yesterday. So like I said, the Panthers are getting shots on Aiden Hill, 120 to be exact. But look at that shooting percentage. So out of the 120 shots they have, they essentially have a less than 1% odds that they're going to score.
Yikes.
Because they only have, how many total goals? Tell me, audience. They have, so the Panthers have, the Panthers are being outscored 17-9. So Vegas has scored 17 goals in this series. The Panthers have only scored 9. So out of those 120 shots, only 9 have gone in. So you can see that odds, less than a 1% chance when they take a shot that it's gone in. And then of course that glaring stat, 0 for 13 on the power play. They have 13 chances on the power play, and they were buzzing along pretty well through the first 3 rounds on their power play. I don't have it in front of me, but it was pretty good. They were at least getting somewhere in 20%. I remember seeing they weren't the top, but they were definitely in the conversation about a top power play and top penalty kill in these first 3 rounds. But 0 for 13 in the Stanley Cup, man. Like, you have these opportunities. Even half of those, if they put 6 of those in, could be an entirely different series. We might be tied up at 2. And then another stat, there are 7 different goal scorers for Florida. Not bad, but when we move to Vegas, you're going to kind of see the difference in why Vegas is up 3-1. But 7 different goal scorers for Florida. I mean, that's pretty good. But again, I didn't make this stat or look at this stat before in the other rounds. But I mean, you can't count on Matty Clutch to score all the time. Sam Bennett hasn't scored in 10 games. Barkov finally got his first one of this series in Game 4. They're your top guys, and you do depend on them. But man, it's the Stanley Cup. Again, we've talked about it many, many times. To win a cup, like, you need things it's a whole team effort.
Everybody's got to do it.
Same thing with like Aaron Ekblad. He hasn't been on the score sheet much. And so we're hoping that we see something different in Vegas. Again, this is kind of trying to pump the gas of the Cats, because, again, we want to see a longer series. And I do want to see them successful. So if we pop on over to Vegas stats, this was kind of mind-blowing to me.
Yeah, telling.
So, again, you saw that 11 different Vegas Golden Knights have scored. So Mark Stone, Marchessault, Howden, Roy, Colasar, Amadio. That's 6 right there. I mean, but 11 different guys have scored a goal. Power play, 6 for 18. And this is not funny, I guess, but Vegas was not good on the power play at all in the first 3 rounds. They could not get anything going. Again, I don't have a percentage of that for the first 3 rounds, but if you go back to earlier episodes, we talked about it with who was the tops of power play and penalty kill. Vegas was not good. I mean, playing Edmonton didn't really have a great chance with that, because, as we know, Edmonton was a high-powered power play. But in the Stanley Cup, 6 for 18 on their power play. So they're scoring almost half the time.
Yeah, that's 30%.
And again, in those first 2 games, when the Cats are going to the box a lot, they scored, and that made the big difference in those games. The other thing, the shots are equal. 120 shots for the Vegas Golden Knights as well. And in each game, so they ended up having the same amount of shots in this series. Each game was a little bit different, like 31-33, 27-24, that type of thing. But it ends up being the same amount of shots. I'm glad that was, because you look at that percentage, moon's different.
Absolutely.
Essentially, the Knights are scoring at least, or almost a quarter of the time with every shot, right? So almost every 4 shots, they're scoring a goal, which is insane.
Ridiculous. Yeah, especially as well as Bob is playing.
Exactly. I mean, it's, again, I don't, only in Game 1 was it really like a failure on Bob. But again, going back to that first game, there was 3 mishaps of bad plays that happened. But again, going back to the power play, you look at those 6 goals that have been scored. Again, that makes an entire difference in a series. In a series. So again, this is why Vegas is up 3-1. Also, Vegas has led the faceoff circle in every single game except Game 4, which is funny because they won Game 4, they lost Game 3, but from Game 1, 2, and 3, they owned the faceoff circle, at least 52% in each one of those games. And those are big things. Again, offensive zone draws. If you're all of a sudden now you lose a faceoff and now you're on the defensive in the zone. And as we see, if Vegas takes a shot, they're scoring almost every 4th or 5th time. So a lot of things to clean up in the next game to not go back home to play golf. But let's go back home to play a Game 6.
Yes, please. I'm hoping to see that.
I do as well. And another thing is, yes, follow us at BarnChirpers Pod if you think we're stupid and we can't do stats right and we can't talk hockey right. I would love to chirp with you, please, at BarnChirpers Pod. Another interesting thing about our boy Matty Clutch. So he took a pretty solid hit from Kolasar in game 3, and he left the game for a good amount of time. He did come back. Obviously, he scored that game-tying goal in game 3, but he was favoring his shoulder. And you could definitely tell in game 4 that he was favoring that shoulder and that he was trying to essentially play around that shoulder. What it is, we're not going to know until after. They're not going to release that. They won't even say upper body injury. I would bet. If I had to bet, though, I would say he probably like dislocated it on that hit, and they popped it back into place. And it just is. If you've never dislocated your shoulder before, it hurts like a SOB. And even when you pop it back into place, it's still like inflamed, and those muscles around that shoulder are tender. So anytime you're taking a hit into the boards, there was 2 times in game 4 where Tkachuk got the puck, and he either got it off the boards or made a pass, and he tried to like side swipe, like step out of the way for a hit. And there was a couple that he kind of got out of the way, but it was almost like he was playing. He was essentially like playing not to get hurt, and that's not really a style accustomed for Matty Tkachuk. He's usually buzzing around, making hits, making plays. So hopefully that extra day of rest here can heal up that shoulder a little bit. If nothing else, give him that cortisone shot, Doc. Like let's go. We needed our star,
So one question I have for you before we move on to the big news.
Yeah,
what do you make of the scrum at the end of game 4 with the Panthers fans throwing all the trash on the ice?
See, throwing the trash on the ice is embarrassing.
Yeah, agreed.
That's embarrassing. You should never throw trash on the ice. Don't throw a water bottle. Don't throw trash. The only thing that is acceptable are hats for a hat trick, and then in this case, because Florida Panthers are the Rat Kings, throwing a rat when they score. That is the only thing acceptable. Back in the Detroit days, throwing a squid, right? Even in Nashville, you don't even throw a mustard bottle, even though they're mustard cats. You don't do that. You never throw trash on the ice. Like, that is so embarrassing, and not even embarrassing on the team. It's embarrassing for the barn. It's embarrassing for the fans. Like, don't be those people. Like, you're a baseball guy too. Back years ago, I believe it was, I don't remember exactly. This happened a few times, but I believe it was Boston or New York specifically. They were throwing batteries at the players.
Yep.
Do you remember that?
Yep.
That is so embarrassing.
It's so gross. We're talking about a sport here. Like, yeah, we don't need to take it that seriously.
You can boo.
Yeah.
By all means, boo. By all means, cheer. By all means, do chants like refs, you suck, because they did make a couple of not great calls, but we don't have to get into that. Like, it is what it is. You can't change that. But throwing trash on the ice, like, come on, man. That is so childish and so just – you're not doing anything besides making people like us with podcasts or anybody that's watching that like, oh, and all of a sudden that's how like, I don't want to qualify this the same exact thing. It's absolutely not, but that's how you get like a stereotype thing to happen to your barn, to Florida. Oh, Florida fans, they're going to throw trash. They're trash. Right.
Think about when you think about Philadelphia, like, the first thing that comes to mind when I think about going to a game in Philadelphia is these are the guys that threw stuff at Santa Claus.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. If only Corey was here to defend Philadelphia, but I think of riots when I think of Philadelphia.
Yeah. They'll never shake it.
So, yeah, man, like it's so, I hate that. I honestly hate that so much. There's no reason for it. Absolutely no reason for it. Again, you can boo all you want, like by all means make noise, but throwing trash, not a fan of it. Not a fan.
I'm sorry, you're probably about to say it. As far as the scrum goes,
well, as far as the scrum goes, I love that. Like,
you can see the fire, right?
I mean, but so here's my, not even a problem, but here's the thing. So I love that at the end of the game because those last 2 minutes were fiery. But so, Aiden Hill made an amazing save again right at the end. He kicks his pad out to stop a goal. And then somebody got pushed into him. Aiden Hill gets up and starts hitting with his blocker. And so he started the fight. Aiden Hill essentially started the fight. And then obviously the Golden Knights guys came around. Nobody was going to touch Aiden Hill, but that's where the scrum happened. All of a sudden we're throwing fists and whatnot. I love that. Show the fire. I would have liked to see that in the previous 59 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
Because, again, everything we talked about 20 minutes ago about not being super excited about scoring a goal in the Stanley Cup Finals when you're down 2-1 in the series. I would have liked to see that fire a little bit earlier in the game. But at the end of the game, I love that because let's take that to Vegas and we're here to FS up. You know what I mean?
That's right. That's right.
But again, Florida fans that were at the arena throwing trash, I'm disappointed in you.
Very low class.
Very low class.
Let's try not to do that. Okay, going forward.
Let's not do that. Okay, guys. Let's just not. Okay.
Yeah. Let's not be that. Let's let hockey fans not be that. But on to bigger and better things, especially for Cole Caulfield. What do you make of this?
Getting paid.
Yeah, man. I love this though. This is Montreal.
I love Cole Caulfield. I was gonna get his sweater, honestly, and then he got hurt, and then I was like, I'll hold off.
You love to see it because I was worried that Montreal was gonna look at this season as failure, and it was it's not. I don't want to gloss over it, but it is in part probably a big part Caulfield's injury. You love to see the guy get paid and show we're sticking with you. We're not going to scrap everything. Well, we're going to, I hope this means some building in the off season. But they got a good young core there. I don't think they're as far away from, the quote unquote cup team that they were.
Right. Cup team. But yeah. No, I mean, you're right. I mean, they do have a young core. And honestly, so I totally agree with you. This past season was, I'd call it a failure. I mean, they literally had 50% of the roster was on the IR or injured the entire year. So that's a tough go. But speaking specifically about Cole Caulfield here first, I mean, he's barely had three. He hasn't even had. He's only played 123 games total.
Wow.
In his career, 46 games played this last season. So really, he hasn't even had a full season yet, number one.
Yeah.
21-22 is his closest to a full season. He played 67 games. So good on Montreal for getting this kid for 8 years at a really great contract, 7.85 for 8 years. When he gets a full season, which hopefully will be this season and then moving on, this contract is going to look great when they're building around this kid.
Yeah.
Because he is a star. Again, in his short season, 123 games played, he's got 53 goals, 84 total points. That's pretty solid for a kid who also is 5'7" and 174 pounds. He's a small kid in the NHL. He's playing in a man's league. There's some big boys out there, right? But I like this. Like you said, it looks like Montreal is obviously they're going to build around him, but they got him. Kirby Dach is a young guy. They also have Wi-Fi, who played last year. He's a solid defenseman. They got some guys on the team. Savard, he won the cup with Tampa Bay. He's a solid defenseman. I don't know what his contract is right now, but Nick Suzuki, the captain, he's a young guy. Sean Monahan came over from Calgary. He's a proven goal scorer. Brendan Gallagher, he's a goal scorer. I mean, Dvorak, Jonathan Drouin. I mean, Yoel Armia. There's so many names on this team. Let's go, man. Jake Allen is a solid goaltender. he was kind of hung out to dry last year. They were
Yeah.
icing an AHL, maybe even an ECHL team last year. Like, same thing with Montalban. He's a solid goaltender as well. Like, they kind of just hung those two goalies out to dry a little bit with nothing really in front of them. So, yeah, I love this signing, and I'm looking forward to see what they come out with this year.
Hopefully, there's some other names out there that can join them up there in Montreal. We also got another extension out in Los Angeles, Joe.
I don't know much about Gavrikov. He came over from the Blue Jackets, and he was kind of like a depth guy on the Blue Jackets. I don't know where he's really going to. I didn't see many LA games, but same thing. He, I believe, was slotting in on Kempe's line, if I'm not mistaken, but I could be mistaken. I'm not sure exactly. But same thing. I mean, young guy. I mean, he's 27. So, I think good on LA for keeping a guy around that. I mean, in the playoffs, he played 6 of the games. He only had 1 point, but he was a +5. So he was at least on the ice for goals, Yeah, I mean, there's not much else to say.
Yeah.
I think he came over. Let's see. So he played 20 games for the Kings after the trade from Columbus. So he had 3 goals, 6 assists, 9 points. But again, he was 12 plus 12. So like he was on the ice when he was on the ice, they were scoring goals. So there's something to be said about that.
Yep. That takes us to Chicago. You surprised at this re-signing?
Not really, because Anthosio, he has been kind of part of essentially the rebuild for, I want to say 3 years already. Okay. I think he's been on the squad for 3 years already. So not really. I mean, I feel like he's one of those depth guys that they're going to keep around to rebuild around. I mean, obviously they're going to get Bedard here at the draft. They're probably, I mean, they're going to pick him. So, he's Anthony is a big center that is, can maybe show Bedard the ropes a little bit. I mean, he's been in the league since 2015, so he is a veteran on the ice. Excuse me. He's only been with Chicago 1 year. My bad. But 20 goals, 20 assists, 40 points in this past year, which, I mean, we know Chicago was terrible. He was a -29, so not great. But, I mean, we know Chicago got scored on a lot. So, I mean, I guess he's a guy to build around. I mean, he's scored everywhere he's played. He's scored. I mean, his most was 30 goals when he played for Detroit back in 2018, 2019. So he can score if he's got guys around him. So maybe Bedard on the team, he's dishing to him. Well, I guess they're both centers. That wouldn't really happen. Yeah. But, I mean, I think this is a good contract, though, 2 years. So just over $4 million, almost $9 million total after 2 years. That's not terrible for, well, I was going to say like a third line center, but for Chicago, he's probably second line. Yeah. But, I mean, hey, we've talked about it before, and we know our thoughts on the conspiracy to getting Bedard. But we do also know it is true that if the NHL wants Chicago to be good, Chicago's going to be good. And if Chicago is good, they are a big market. Mm-hmm. So it does mean more money for the NHL. I don't know. It's kind of like whatever. Okay. Yeah. I mean, more on that in the offseason. There's nothing else to really say. I hate saying that. Like, no, I don't want Chicago to be good. Like, they had their time. Like, bye. But bye. Whatever. I'm not going to waste any more breath on it. This is a good contract for them. There's a lot of moves to be made, and the draft is right around the corner. So it'll be interesting to see how things shake up. I'm excited that we have this podcast to cover all the things, especially in the off season. And if you're listening, chirp us at BarnChirpers Pod on the Instagram. Let us know what you're excited about. Let us know your team. Comment below about that. Put it on Spotify. Like, subscribe, share it with all your people. You know the drill.
Yes.
Okay. Had to get that was 5 minutes, so we want to get that cheap plug in. Your boy, Justin, I'll let you take this one.
First
of all, I'll ask you this. We kind of talked about it before. We kind of knew that he was probably going to be leaving.
Oh, yeah, it was 100%.
Sign everybody. So, a two-part question: how do you feel knowing that Sivo obviously officially did leave? That's part one. And B, how do you feel about him going to Columbus?
Okay, so of course I'm bummed, man. Like, this guy has been with us through like the depths over the last 10 seasons. Like, he's seen some really bad Devils teams, and you know, I was there's like a glimmer in the back of my mind, just hoping, you know, maybe they work something out to figure out a way to keep him so he can be here during the good years. But I knew there was no chance. To your second point, though, Columbus, oh man, like of all the places to go, boy. I mean, it's clear Columbus wants to put a winner on the ice. That's the best part I can say about this. It's clear they want to put a winner on the ice this year. So best of luck, Sivo. Like, I hope, you know, I hope this works out. You know, they made the big trade for FU Provi. I think I caught that one for FU Provi. You know, and then they make the big move last year for Goudreau. Maybe some of these names kindly wakes Line up. You know, maybe they make a couple other moves here in the offseason, and maybe they have at least a playoff team. I mean, they sure have the names for a playoff team already.
That's true. At least not dead last.
Right. Please.
I mean, obviously they were third to last, but you know, maybe if we can bump up to top 20.
Yes. Yeah. So that's my thoughts on.
Yeah. I mean, listen, Sivo is another proven veteran to put on this young team. So, I mean, again, do I have any stake in Columbus? No, I really don't care, but I would like to see them not be a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
So putting another veteran on that squad, and again, I'm not looking. I wish I had 3 more computers so I could look up cap friendly for all these squads. I'm not sure how much Columbus has to spend, but I mean, this is a pretty solid contract for a guy like Sivo, who's a proven somebody that can produce.
Yeah. And I mean, so this is a guy, you know, for them, he might be top line, but like, generally speaking, probably a second line defender, like he's not going to get burnt a lot. And he's going to be able to put some points on the board for you. Like, he's not going to just be a body out there. You're going to get something from Sivo.
I mean, speaking of bodies, like, honestly, Columbus has a pretty stacked blue line. I'm going to go. I'm not going to say everybody's name, but I'm just going to say this. This is interesting to me. This is a good sign to me for what Columbus has. I'm going to say height and weight. Okay. 6'1", 196. 6'1", 196. 6 foot, 192. 5'9", 177. 6 foot, 182. 6'5", 222. 6'3", 210. 6'1", 201. 6'2", 205. 6'2", 213. Those are some big boys.
They got some bodies.
minus the Blankenberg 5'9", 177. But he might be a puck moving defenseman. I don't really know much about him. But that's a pretty stacked blue line. So, and again, we have on that blue line, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 for sure veterans. I might say Werenski's a veteran too, maybe. So, but 5 veterans just on the blue line. So I like that. I like that. I like to see where that goes. You know, again, I'm not necessarily pulling for Columbus. I just don't want to. If they get past being a dumpster fire, I'll look at that and go, okay, Columbus.
Right. Yeah, that's where I'm at with it. Now, how did they get him? This was a sign-in trade. This is to me the most important part of this whole thing, because he was gonna walk. Like it was pretty much a foregone conclusion. I thought we were just gonna lose Damon Severson. I love everything about this. The devs sign him to a friendly contract for him. So he's getting a nice contract going out the door. I think we paid some of that to ship him over there. So like he's getting a little bit of money from us going out the door. I think. Don't hold me to that. I think I read that.
Yeah, I think I read that too. So I don't think you're wrong on that. But either way.
And then the biggest thing for me is we get a third rounder this year. So we get something back for a guy that was 98, 99% gonna walk. Like we were gonna lose him for nothing.
Yeah, and potentially that third round pick this year could turn into something else this year as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like the Devs might turn around and trade up for that, or trade down, or get something else for that. Like picks are very valuable.
Yeah,
as we know, so they could end up getting an actual piece for that third round pick. Like you know what I mean? Like, so while it's a pick that they got right now, which, I mean, a third round pick, are they going to turn into an actual NHL player? Chances are slim on that, but you know, you get lucky sometimes. But again, that could be a piece to package in with getting an actual player that can play right now. So like you said, a guy that was just going to walk, you got something out of it, which is always what you want to have for a guy that's been on your squad for almost 10 years and you know, has given the team a lot in his time. So
I want to jump to this real quick. I don't have the image for it. I thought I had it loaded up here. I'm going to bring this down, but DeBrincat apparently wants out. I swear
Kitty Cat.
I had this.
Kitty Cat wants out. Yeah, so I mean, essentially he doesn't want to play in Ottawa, and I don't think Ottawa wants him either. I think I feel like Ottawa wasn't really impressed with getting a guy that was supposed to be not necessarily a savior by any means, but you know, he didn't produce. You know, he came over from Chicago, a 40-goal scorer, and then, you know, this year he didn't really do much. So I think that Ottawa. What's the problem about this is Ottawa essentially is going to have to take whatever they're given. They don't really have a lot of leverage in this. I don't feel, because, you know, everybody knows now that DeBrincat wants out.
Yep.
Right. So I feel like that doesn't give Ottawa a lot of leverage to, you know, get a lot of pieces for him. But you should get at least a first round for DeBrincat, though. He's worth a first rounder.
Yeah. And you know, I looked this up, and it looks like it doesn't list it, but he submitted just a couple days ago his preferred trade list to the Sens. So that's official. He wants out after a year. I'm trying to go through this to see if it says, but so it says, think of the Tkachuk deal from the Flames to the Panthers last offseason. Don't know who exactly is on that list, but the list has been submitted. So this article I clicked on gave me nothing. Gave
me absolutely nothing. Yeah, I mean, he's a good player. I mean, so again, wherever he lands, we'll see if it. Well, again, it could be just to like play devil's advocate a little bit. Did he get those couple of 40-goal seasons because he was playing next to Patty Kane, feeding him the puck? You know, and now he wasn't playing next to Patty Kane, so he didn't produce. So, you know, it could be that syndrome too, where he could go to another team, but if he doesn't produce, then it's just him.
Yeah,
and who he plays around, which, I mean, is fine. Obviously, those guys exist throughout the entire league, but hopefully Ottawa gets at least a pull for him, even though, again, I feel like they don't have much leverage, but hopefully they get some pieces for him, because, again, we've talked about Ottawa on the show. Like, would love to see Ottawa do well.
Yeah.
And they made a playoff push So they were right on the edge there. So
They have the squad.
They have the squad. They got the squad.
Some coaching news, Joe.
I don't know much about this guy, but I mean, we're seeing those head coaching positions shore up. So again, this is another guy, like we talked about. He's only coached the Colorado Eagles, which is I was trying to look this up beforehand. They're a minor league team, so and he's coached in college as well. So we do like to see new faces in the league behind the bench, as we talked about the Old Boys Club. He's not part of the Old Boys Club, so I do like to see that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at this real quick. So he was an assistant for the New York Islanders in 98 to 2003. And then he was an assistant for the Maple Leafs from 11 to 2014. Back with the Isles in 2014 to 2018. And then coached the Colorado Eagles since AHL. Okay, Colorado Eagles in the AHL. So, I mean, but again, he's not part of the Old Boys Club, so I'm here for it. Like, let's give him a shot. He's got a young team. Let's see what he can do.
Yeah, it's crazy to see. Like, he's been coaching since '87.
Yeah. And
he's just now getting a head coaching gig. That's wild.
Well, again, as we talked about, Old Boys Club.
Old Boys Club. Yep. Yeah. That's
nobody essentially getting a chance because the Old Boys Club just keeps running through the next guy. Mm-hmm. Which, again, we still got some other open coaching positions. So I feel like at least next week or the week after, it'll be before the draft. I feel like those coaching positions are going to shore up because they want to have essentially a full coaching staff before going into the draft.
Right.
Generally speaking, at least a head coach anyway.
Unless you're a terrible franchise.
Unless you're a terrible franchise, that's correct. So we'll see how it goes. But I mean, he's got a young team, so I love it. Honestly, like let's go. Let's go.
The Flames finally filled in their head coaching vacancy too. This is another name I'm unsure or I haven't heard of.
Yeah, I haven't heard of him either. He played for the Chicago Blackhawks. That's the only team he played for, honestly. So that's he was drafted in 93, 76 overall by the Chicago Blackhawks. Played from 91 to 2000, and then has been coaching from 2002 to the present. So he's coached in the AHL for the Springfield Falcons. So essentially he's been in looks like the Chicago Blackhawks, like farm league, essentially. Mm-hmm. And then he coached the Adirondack Flames, the AHL, in 2014. So he's been part of the Flames organization as well. I'm just looking through this real quick. He's essentially coached in all of the leagues, the W, the AHL, the IHL. So, again, new face, not part of the Old Boys Club. So I'm excited to see where that goes. I was fully expecting the Flames to hire like Peter Laviolette, though, and go with another old coach since they just got rid of Daryl Sutter.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how this hire goes. He's a pretty young guy, 47, so I feel like he's going to be just by looking at that, I feel like that's going to be more of a player-friendly coach because he's going to be close to the age of a lot of the players that are playing. So
maybe that's what Calgary needs. You know, they were a very, very disappointing team this year.
They sure were. I think it was the Gear Freaks pod where we had bold predictions and picks, and I'm pretty sure I picked Calgary to go to the Stanley Cup. So,
I mean, I wouldn't have disagreed.
Obviously, that didn't happen. But I again don't know much about this guy. I'm excited to see where that goes because again, new face. So let's go.
Good for him. And then that brings us to I've got this one. The Seattle Kraken 2024 Winter Classic jersey are expected to be ice blue. Hot.
Yeah, that's hot. And what's interesting about that is on our sweater website, though, if those are the same ice blue, maybe they're doing another rendition. But those were a lot of those were available for purchase on that
They
website.
sure were.
Yeah. So the pictures were. I don't think the pictures do them justice because I was like, I don't know if I like that. So I'll be curious to see what those look like at the Winter Classic. So, but yeah, dude. I mean, again, Vegas Golden Knights versus Seattle Kraken Winter Classic 2024.
Love it.
I'm here for it.
Apparently, tickets are already on sale for that.
Is that right? I hadn't looked at all.
Because I went to look for the logo because I didn't get to it before the show. Because the Winter Classic logo was released, and I wanted to put that up on the screen.
Yeah, it's on that same page.
Yeah, and it took me to the Ticketmaster. I'm seeing verified resale ticket, $267. I guess they're playing in the baseball stadium.
Yeah, Safeco.
Or
whatever it's called now. That's not too bad.
No,
for a resale, that's not too bad. But yeah, that Winter Classic logo looks pretty tight too. Definitely have the a Mariner type vibe.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that. Gives me a little bit of Ken Griffey Jr. vibes.
Yeah, I wish I would have had just a couple more minutes so I could have gotten that
That's
done.
right. If you just go to that website, it's Kraken Season SZN. You'll see the Winter Classic logo, and we can probably repost it on the Instagram. So remember at BarnChirpers Pod, and you'll see that.
But I do have this. Speaking of the Kraken, their AHL team, the Coachella Firebirds, which, by the way, look at this gear. Oh my god,
it's pretty hot. It's a pretty hot gear, I must say.
Yeah, I love how it. I don't want to get too deep here because this might be infringing on Gear Freak territory. But I love how it's a nod to the Kraken, but also it's very clearly we're the Firebirds. I love it.
Yeah, I like that. I like the trim.
Mm-hmm.
The Kraken. That's Decord.
Yeah, they got Joey Decord and Chris Drieger down there.
That's good. They need that seasoning though.
Yeah,
they really do. I mean, Drieger. Speaking of our Cats, like he didn't really get much of a shot there before they moved him in the expansion draft. So, that's great for them. And then also they are playing the Hershey Bears, which is the AHL affiliate of the Washington Capitals, as we know. But that's great for the entire Kraken organization from top to bottom. This is I love this. Yeah.
The fact that their AHL team is good when they are already this good, that's something for that franchise going forward. That they're doing something right.
100%. And then also I saw today, if you stall for 2 seconds.
Ooh, look at this guy. They're nice. I don't know where Coachella's in California. Yeah.
California. Yeah.
This looks like a fun atmosphere. I don't know if it's just because it's AHL or what, but there we go. Boys.
I mean, I don't know if it's just because it's AHL or because it's the finals of the Calder Cup, but it looks packed in there. Today, the Seattle Kraken signed a 18-year-old forward from Finland named Jani Nyman for a 3-year entry-level contract, which is great. Another big boy, 6'3", 216 pounds, and he's only 18 years old.
Wow.
So he's going to grow a little bit more. He's going to get a little bit more stacked. So that's a good sign. Also, another big body forward to put on the line in a couple of years. I mean, this will probably be another episode thing that we'll talk about. But I mean, the Kraken are just doing things so right.
Right.
They really are handling this entire franchise expansion probably in the best way. Maybe even better than Vegas. And I know that's really kind of tough to latch onto considering Vegas is one game away from winning the Stanley Cup.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, the way money seemingly has been handled, contracts have been handled, seemingly, if I could say this today on what day is it today? June 12th, 2023. Seemingly 90% of the Kraken's contracts are locked in for a pretty good amount of term, whereas a lot of the guys that were drafted in the expansion draft for Vegas are not there anymore. So, and I mean, there are some pieces that the Kraken drafted in their expansion draft. We're not going to get into all that. We're almost an hour into this episode, but it seems like they're doing things right, and I love to see that.
And just to hammer that point home, you look at the difference between how the public views the Vegas Golden Knights. Let me get this hand on camera since I'm talking with it, and how the public views the Seattle Kraken. I feel like the Seattle Kraken have kind of become America's team in hockey. Like, obviously America doesn't watch hockey. Shame on you, jerks. But you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like we have gravitated towards them where, I'm just now coming around on Vegas begrudgingly. Like, I really don't want to like this franchise, but they just played really good hockey this year. Whereas
that's accurate.
Seattle just existed and I fell in love already. So there is something there about the way they're running their franchise versus the way, Vegas runs theirs. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. And, just real quick, hold on 1 second. Stop.
I can't wait to go over great I think there's a whole episode in this, and folks, if you would like to hear, you would like to be part of this conversation, let me know. We can bring it to the show. I would like to do like a road trip episode, like set up, three stops on the episode, pick 3 barns that we try to hit. Because Joe and I had that conversation, I think, on the way back from Blink, where there's a couple like Canadian trips that we can make. I mean, there's some easy ones, like right off the top of my dome, going to the Rock, going to the Isles barn, and going to MSG. Like that's like what 10 minutes, 20 minutes between the 3 barns. I mean, probably more than that with traffic, but whatever.
Yeah. Okay. So I just wanted to look up the Knights AHL squad, which is the Henderson Silver Knights. And I'm just saying that in 3 years of existence, the Henderson Silver Knights have only lost in the finals of the Calder Cup. That's all I'm saying. And they didn't even qualify this year. And they lost in the prelims the year before. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
That's all you're saying. That's all you're saying. I think we covered everything, Joe. Wow.
We did. We had a stacked show. So
yeah. And I bet you there'll be more next week. And I think pretty much regardless, we'll have our Stanley Cup champion next week too.
Yeah, next week there'll definitely be a champion regardless, because let's see, Tuesday, travel day. So they'll probably play Thursday or Friday. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Go Cat.
Go Cats!
Not in a rooting interest, but like just for hockey.
For hockey. Do it for hockey. And also hashtag let them scrap.
That's right. Let them scrap.
Let them scrap. Yeah. So, sorry. So game 6 will be Friday if necessary. Game 7 will be Monday if necessary.
Okay. So chances are we usually record anywhere between Tuesday and Thursday. So chances are the series will be over one way or the other. Right.
But I feel like if it does get to game 7, we might have to do an emergency quick episode, maybe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So if you guys want to hear that, obviously you root for the Cats. And Huckster, you got anything else?
No, man. I think that covers everything for the week.
Sweet. Well, everybody, like we said, follow us on Instagram at BarnChirpers If you can like, subscribe, comment, share on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, on this YouTube, subscribe, share it. It literally takes 2 seconds. You don't even have to listen to us ever. You just like it so we get subscribers and stuff. And you can give us a 5-star on Spotify and on Apple. That'd be great. You don't even have to ever listen to us ever again. You can just like it. It'll help the algorithm and stuff.
That's right.
We kept this episode PG. So you can listen to it at work, in front of your kids, all that stuff. So until next time, stick taps and sellies, boys. Clap it up.
Clap it up, boys. And end the broadcast.